Good morning, Jacksonville. God is good. All the time. God is good. I am so pleased to join Governor Childs, Lieutenant Governor Buddy McKay, our Mayor, Mayor Delaney, and our Sheriff in welcoming our President of the United States to Jacksonville. And also with us today is Janet Reno, the Attorney General. We're here today celebrating President Clinton's COPS program. And I want to emphasize it's President Clinton's COPS program. The COPS programs have received 31 additional COPS for the city of Jacksonville and $2.3 million to pay for even more to keep our streets safe. That deserves a hand. And if Congress, Mr. President, sends a bill to eliminate this program, what do we want the president to do? Veto pen! Veto! Veto! Let's do that again. Veto! 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 During the last month of August, I met with over 3,000 of my constituents in 13 town meetings. My constituents strongly support no cuts in Medicare. And if by chance this bad bill reaches the president's desk, what do we want him to do? Veto! 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 We got a lot of students here. Congress is proposing to cut $10 billion from education. Did you hear that, Edwards College? Now, if by chance this bad bill reaches the president's desk, what do we want him to do? Veto! 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 We have with us here today the foster grandparents. Stand up. We have with us Miss Liberty. The Republicans are proposing cutting these programs. And if by chance this reaches the president's desk, what do we want him to do? Veto! 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 And in fact, this reverse Robin Hood, robbing from the working people and the poor to give to the rich, if any of this arrive on his desk, what do we want him to do? Veto! 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 Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our governor, Walking Lawton. But let me tell you one thing about Lawton in the 3rd Congressional District. When he was low in other areas, he was up by 65%. We love him here in Jacksonville, and let's give him a big hand.
Good morning. Isn't it a great day? Whoa, great day to be in Jacksonville and a great day to see you all out here. I've had an opportunity to walk a little bit with the president this morning through your neighborhood and find out, what people think about community policing. They think it's a great program. They think crime is down. They know that this program works. And this president has been about helping neighborhoods help themselves. That's what we care about in this country, and that's what we care about in Florida, trying to build a community. If you don't have a strong community and you don't have a strong neighborhood, you're not going to have a strong state and you're not going to have a strong country. But that's what President has been about. And, of course, one of the great leaders in helping him with that is our own Janet Reno. Isn't she doing a wonderful job? Well, the president picked a great lady when he picked Janet because she was already working as a state attorney in Dade County to build up neighborhoods, to build up communities, to get policemen and law enforcement officers out where they could actually help people, to get them out of the patrol car and get them out walking in neighborhoods. Well, let's give a warm Duval, Jacksonville welcome to our Attorney General, Janet Reno.
It's wonderful to be in Jacksonville. You get things done here. It's wonderful to be in a community that cares, that works with its police officers, that joins with them in identifying problems and establishing priorities and in solving the problems of neighborhoods together. That's what community policing is all about, and that's what the President promised America when he led the fight to get the Crime Act passed last fall and promised to put 100,000 community police officers on the streets of this nation in the next 6 years. He's already way down the road to fulfilling that promise. In just a year since the Crime Act was passed, we have authorized 25,000 officers for the streets of this nation, with more to come. 3 strikes and you're out is the law of the land. We've got programs for violence against women started in every state in the nation. We cannot turn back from that Crime Act. People have talked a lot about crime, but now we have a record, a year-long record of what can be done, and we are hearing from people what's happening. Not just talking, but what's actually happening in communities across America with community policing. This morning we heard what community policing is doing here in Carville Park. More recently, I've had the chance to hear from people around the country. Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, where they had so many violent crimes each week. Now they had 4 in 11 months because of Officer Ceasefire, who got the community together. Alexandria, Virginia, a police officer tells me what it's like after he's moved into the community, made the community his home, involved himself with the citizens. He's making a difference. We cannot turn back. Last week, I came here to see a community in action, a community that was going to do something to protect its children, a community that developed the program Victory Over Violence. I was at Fort Caroline Elementary, and I'm taking the message around this country. Look what they're doing in Jacksonville. Let's do it around the country. I visited the Victim Services Center. Jacksonville is a city that will not let victims be forgotten. It's one of the best programs I've seen in this country to deal with the problem of victims, the problems they face after the crime. And now here with community policing, as we have seen with Officer Crenshaw, what she is doing here, what these officers will be doing, Jacksonville is a city that is getting things done. So today, let us all join President Clinton in urging Congress to keep its promise that it made last year to fight crime. It gave us a historic opportunity. We've proved the Crime Act can work. Let's not turn back. It's working. The Crime Act is working because of law enforcement leaders across this country who know how important community policing is. And one of those people is Sheriff Nat Glover.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reno. Isn't it nice to be in Jacksonville? When I was elected sheriff, of course, I pledged to you that I was going to increase police presence on the street, reduce the level of fear in this community, and get you involved in law enforcement. And I want to tell you that this 1994 crime bill have assisted me in achieving those goals. The Cops Ahead program is working good in Culver Park, and we are going to spread that same spirit throughout this city. I also pledge to you that I would not just sit behind my desk and read reports and surveys on crime, that I would go to the neighborhood, and every neighborhood would be my office. I've kept that pledge. So, it gives me great pleasure to welcome a man who has assisted me in achieving that, and him seeing fit to come to our city to emphasize and focus and put focus on the Cops Ahead program. And with that, you know, people said Jacksonville will never get an NFL team. We got the what? People said Nat Glover will never get elected in Jacksonville, Florida. But the message we want to send to the country today, in the presence of our president, that in Jacksonville we can do anything. And with that, it gives me great pleasure, and it is quite an honor to present to you the President of the United States, William Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Sheriff Glover, I don't ever want to be on the ballot against you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Congresswoman Corinne Brown, for your friendship and your support. And thank you for your support of the crime bill, which has made our streets safer and made the children's future here more secure. Thank you. Thank you, Governor Childs, for being my friend and advisor and for your leadership. And thank you, Lieutenant Governor McKay, for your long support and your leadership here. Mayor Delaney, we are delighted to be here in this great and growing community. I want to thank you and the state's attorney, Harry Shorenstein, and all the other local officials here. And I want to say, as president, it's a particular honor for me to be here in Jacksonville, not only because this is a vibrant, growing city that did get a professional football team. And don't be discouraged by the rough starts. I've had a lot of rough starts in my life. The opera's not over. I want to also say a special word of thanks to the people of Jacksonville for the remarkable contribution that has been made by this community over so many years to the national defense of the United States. We are very grateful for that, and we continue to be grateful for that. I want to say a special word of appreciation, too, to Florida's own, our Attorney General, Janet Reno, for the wonderful job that she has done as the Attorney General of the United States. And the director of our COPS program, who is also here on my far left, Joe Brand from California, who's come to Washington as a chief of police to work with us to get these police officers out into the United States. I thank them for being here, and I thank them for their leadership. I want to thank all the schools that are represented here. I have a list. I may miss some, but I think we're joined by Kite Elementary School, Lake Forest Elementary, Moncrief Elementary, Ribault Middle School, Rains, and Ribault High School. And the Edward Water College Choir, thank you. I'd also like to thank one more person, Police Officer Larissa Crenshaw, who walked down the street with me today, because she and these other officers in uniform behind me, they're what we're here to talk about. I thank her, and I thank these people for being willing to serve your community in law enforcement. You know, when I ran for president in 1992, I had a vision of what I wanted America to look like as we enter the 21st century. I want this to be a high opportunity country for all Americans, where entrepreneurs can flourish, where people who work hard can be in the middle class, where we shrink the underclass and give everybody who's willing to do what it takes to make the most of their own lives the chance to do it. I wanted us to have strong families and strong communities with good education systems, good health care, a clean environment. But I knew that in order to do that, we first had to tackle the problems of crime and drugs. Without safe streets, safe schools, and safe homes, America will never be what it ought to be. Well, we've worked hard for the last 2.5 years to bring the deficit down, to invest more in education, to deal with all these issues I talked about, and we've got more jobs and less crime in America than we had 2.5 years ago, and I think that's pretty good evidence that our strategy is working to move this country forward. On the issue of crime, I was astonished when I got to Washington, having been a governor for 12 years, if there was one issue that had nothing to do with partisan politics all my life, it was crime. I never met a Republican or a Democrat that wanted to be a victim of crime. I couldn't imagine that there would ever be any partisan issue there. When I was a governor, when I was Attorney General, we all worked together on issues affecting public safety. And I can see that's what you do here in Jacksonville. When I got to Washington, I discovered that even though the violent crime rate had tripled from 1960s to the 1990s, they had been fighting partisan battles over the crime bill for 6 long years. Hot air in Washington, more crime on the streets. In 1994, we ended the hot air and the partisan bickering and passed the crime bill, and crime is going down on the streets of America. The crime bill featured more police, helped the states to build more prisons, stronger punishment for people who deserve it, but also more prevention to give our young people something to say yes to, as well as something to say no to, the chance to avoid getting into trouble in the first place. We made 3 strikes and you're out the law of the land. What that means is that people who are serious career criminals now will go to jail for the rest of their careers, so they can't get out and continue to do violence and to victimize people. We banned deadly assault weapons from our streets and from our schools while protecting hundreds of sporting weapons for law-abiding hunters and sportsmen and women in this country. It was a good balance and the right one to strike. We created an office to combat the problems of violence against women in the home and on the street, a special problem in the United States, and one the First Lady talked about when she went to China and represented us so well there just a few days ago. The most important thing we did was to give the communities of this country the ability to hire 100,000 police officers to do what these 31 police officers behind me are going to do, to walk up and down the streets of America like Marvin Street, to talk to neighbors, to talk to people, to get them involved in keeping their communities safe and free of crime. We give the communities the resources they need to put the police officers on the street, and people like Sheriff Glover all over America take responsibility to train and deploy those officers. The officers help ordinary citizens like the folks I just visited with, walking up and down the street, to find the commitment to do their part in fighting against crime. If we're going to make our streets safe, if we're going to do what we have to do to give our children a chance at a future, we have got to have the help of grassroots citizens who are willing to work with police officers. If we can get them on the streets, you've got to help them do their jobs. In the 6 months since community police officers started patrolling this neighborhood, in 6 months, violent and property crimes have dropped by more than 8% in just 6 months, and they're just beginning. What I want you to know is that just like Sheriff Glover said that Jacksonville could do anything, America can do this. We do not have to put up with the high rates of crime we have. We do not have to put up with the high rates of drug abuse among our children we have. We can do something about it. You have evidence on this street, in this neighborhood. We can do something about it. All over America today, the crime rate is down, the murder rate is down. We see people making progress to take control of their own lives, their families, their neighborhoods, their schools, and get this country going in the right direction. But let me tell you, there are also troubling signs on the horizon. And I'll just give you two. While drug use is down among people between the ages of 18 and 34, casual drug use, marijuana among teenagers, is going back up again. While the crime rate is down all over America and the murder rate is down, violent crime among teenagers is going up again. The Justice Department issued a report the other day which showed that while the overall crime rate is down, violent crime among juveniles is going up, and a majority of members of gangs say that they think they are justified in shooting someone who treats them with disrespect. We actually had a case in another city not very long ago where a 16-year-old boy shot a 12-year-old boy who was sort of the neighborhood comic, and he thought the 12-year-old boy was treating him with disrespect. Whatever happened to count to 10 before you do something you might later regret? Whatever happened to kids being taught that sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you? Whatever happened to people defining self-respect based on what they believe about themselves, not what somebody else says about them? Shoot, if the president followed that rule, he wouldn't have any respect. You think about it, it's a big problem. Look at what happened in Los Angeles over the weekend. A family took one wrong turn, and because they were in the wrong place, gang members felt they had the right to shoot at them and take their lives, kill an innocent child. So what I want to tell you is, this is a moment of great hope. We know we can lower the crime rate. We know we can lower the murder rate. We know we can reduce drug abuse and drug dealing in our neighborhoods. We know we can take our streets back. We know how to do it. Your sheriff is proved that he can do it, working with you if you will help him. We know how to do this. This is one of the most important things that has happened to America in the last 20 years. We don't believe we are helpless in the face of crime anymore. We know we can turn it around, but we also know that the job is not yet done. Therefore, to go back to what the Congresswoman said at the beginning, we fought through one partisan political battle to get this crime bill. I heard people say on the floor of Congress that the crime bill was a fraud, that it wouldn't help to lower the crime rate, that we would never get 20,000 police on the street in 6 years, and we were promising 100,000 in 6 years. Well, in 1 year, we're over 25,000, and we're going to make it on time, ahead of the budget, ahead of the schedule. And we now have a consensus among the American people, I believe, that we ought to keep on lowering the crime rate. I hadn't heard the first person write me a letter and said, "Dear Mr. President, I don't like the fact that the crime rate is going down. Please stop what you're doing." I hadn't got one letter saying that. Now, in Washington, the Congress is trying to balance the budget. I support that. We ought to balance the budget. We never had a permanent deficit until the 12 years before I became president. We have taken the deficit from $290 billion a year when I took office to $160 billion this year, more than 40% reduction. And I want to finish the job. We can balance the budget, and we should. But what I want to tell you is, we do not have to destroy our commitment to the education of our young people, to the training of unemployed people, to the economic future of America. We do not have to have dramatic increases in the health care costs of elderly people when 75% of them are living on less than $24,000 a year. We do not have to sacrifice the environmental and public health and safety protections that give us clean air, clean water, and safe food. We do not have to do any of this to balance the budget. I have given the Congress a balanced budget plan which does not do any of these things. And we certainly do not have to come off of our commitment to put 100,000 police officers on the street and have more and more stories like the ones I heard walking up and down Marvin Street today. We owe it to America to balance the budget and to reduce the crime rate until Americans are safe in their streets, safe in their homes, safe in their schools. So I ask you, because you are fortunate enough to live in this growing and vibrant community, because you are fortunate enough to have elected leaders that work together across party lines and know that crime is an American problem and a human problem, because you are fortunate enough to have a sheriff who has proved to you that community policing works, because you are fortunate enough to have experienced a drop in the crime rate, I ask you to join with me and say to the United States Congress, this is not about partisan politics. We are lowering the crime rate in America. If we have more jobs and lower crime, America is going to be a better place. So let's continue to do that. Let's continue to do that. And let us say, balance the budget, yes, but do it and still send us our police officers, because we want our children to have a healthy, safe, strong, drug-free, crime-free, violence-free future. And now we know we can do it. Let's don't stop. Let's keep on until the job's done. Thank you, and God bless you all.